All right, I want to talk about one of the worst cases of sexual dysfunction I've ever had to deal with. What we did to resolve it over time. This is a multi-layered, very, very complex situation. I've seen some of the worst sexual dysfunction situations out there. I just closed the coaching with this guy, so I'm allowed to use all the information. Not going to give you guys his name. We'll talk about how bad the sexual dysfunction was, what exactly we did to fix it, to illustrate for folks even the worst cases of erection, libido, numbness, lack of climax, no sensation, sexual dysfunction can be resolved. Let's get into it. All right, before we start the video, look, Cortex Labs, my company, is a TRT guidance, sexual dysfunction resolution, and performance optimization company. I got discounts for you, boys. Coaching, 50% off one-on-one coaching with me. I'm the world's foremost specialist in resolving libido and erection issues, both on TRT, with the use of TRT, HRT, and from hair loss drugs. These are very, very detailed one-on-one protocol architectures. I've seen every situation under the sun. We'll get your sexual function dialed in, whether you're on TRT, HRT, coming off of drugs that may have messed with DHT. You can book me in under a minute at livecortex.com. Use the coupon code COACH discount. It saves you thousands of dollars right now. There are 7 slots open. Source list. If you want to go at it alone, cool, but you might need some ancillaries like 20% DHT, some Masteron, etc. You get source list livecortex.com. It is 30% off right now. Code is source30. You can get down the description of this video. Lastly, if you need a dialing Cypionate for libido and erections, I created a video course, and I just got an email today of a guy dialed in from following my advice. Get the course, livecortex.com. All right, so I'm going to give you some details. I've got all this jotted down to start with of just how bad the sexual dysfunction was, and I think we'll start with the symptoms. Primary symptom that this individual had was full-blown ED. It was so bad that he could not actually get full erections with porn or with the use of like a male masturbator, like a sort of a female body-shaped masturbator. He had not only limited sensation, but no sensation. So, I mean, the organ was dead, lifeless, white, indicating blood was just not flowing through it properly at all. At this point, probably atrophied to a significant degree where it needed repair. The mental side of libido was non-existent. There wasn't a thing, whether it was pornography or otherwise, that would get this person's libido going. Throughout the period of being afflicted with sexual dysfunction, they had temporary little windows, whether they tried some supplement or they tried something to boost tests, and it would help, but ultimately nothing stayed. And the increase in sexual function temporarily was abysmal. Now, you might think to yourself, well, what was wrong with this person? Did he just have low testosterone? Did he take a hair loss drug? You know, what happened? Ultimately, we hadn't figured this out at this point, but through looking at some bloods, found out that number one, the guy had 340 nanograms per milliliter prolactin. Okay, that is substantially many percentages above the range of prolactin. So far above the range, top of the range is 20. He was at 340. In my mind, having seen this before, the number one cause of prolactin that high is a tumor in your pituitary gland that secretes prolactin. It's a functional tumor where the cells that secrete prolactin have overgrown and you've got a ton of them. So you're just making a bunch of prolactin equivalent to a pregnant female. The prolactin shuts everything down. That would be a reasonable cause for a lifeless penis and no libido. At the same time, because of that, prolactin shuts down pituitary sex hormones, gonadotropin specifically. So the total testosterone was 270 nanograms per deciliter. That's deficient, right? That's hypogonadal full blown. So we got 2 problems here. Fully, unequivocally, hypogonadal. You're not going to have sexual function for the most part being hypogonadal. But secondly, prolactin substantially over range, forget it. You're not having sexual function. Now, what a lot of you may not have known, and some of you do know, is that prolactin is also a very, very potent 5-alpha reductase inhibitor. So you're going to be not only limiting your testosterone production, but you're also blocking test conversion to DHT, and you're going to be estrogen dominant in that state. So that's what we had to work with. A really, really bleak situation. So look, to start, and just for folks to understand, in sexual dysfunction, you have to remove the major bottleneck first, the thing that's blocking you from having sexual function, and in this case, it was prolactin. At the same time, you can't be sitting at hypogonadal levels of testosterone because you're going to feel like dog shit. Guy couldn't go to the gym. He was tired all the time, and there's no chance at seeing if your erections work if you don't have high testosterone and high DHT. So the protocol began like this. 200 milligrams Test C a week. This was split up into every 3.5 days. 100 IU of HCG a day. 0.5 milligrams cabergoline. Cabergoline, it's a dopamine D2 receptor agonist that does lower prolactin and ultimately ends up involuting the lactotrope cells so that it stops. It could cure some of these tumors in some cases. Now, the test is high, and I knew the estrogen would be high, but it doesn't even matter at this point. We're just trying to get the prolactin down. We're trying to give the guy enough androgen so he has enough DHT. We weren't trying to resolve sexual dysfunction right now because first, PRL has to go down, and then, only then, can we see what's going on. As long as PRL is still up, prolactin, we have no idea what the protocol is doing regarding sexual function. So the guy was energized, anabolic, felt fucking 1,000 times better, but prolactin was still up. And what it ended up happening was 0.5 milligrams cabergoline once a week. It was split up into 2 doses of 0.25. Had lowered the prolactin, but after many months, it wasn't aggressive enough to lower it in range. That sucks because cabergoline over time, can be somewhat of a deleterious drug once it reaches a cumulative dose of several hundred milligrams, at which point it can cause valvulopathy or cardiac valve problems. But the guy wanted to take that risk to get that prolactin down and get some progress on the tumor. So we did take that risk. Went to 0.5 milligrams cabergoline every 3 days. And within a few months at that point, now the PRL had gotten down in range from 340 to like 15 or something it ended up at. Okay, now we've removed one of the major bottlenecks here. We've stopped the 5-alpha reductase inhibition. Now we've got to dial in TRT. Labs said that at the 200 milligram dose of every 3.5 days of 100 milligrams, 100 IU of HCG a day, 20 milligrams DHEA per day, labs had E2 at 66 picograms per milliliter, okay? This is not good. It's not good for someone that doesn't want their prolactin to go up, and it is usually not good for sexual function. This is where we get into the nitty-gritty of what actually ended up working. We took the test dose down to 120 milligrams a week. That's an 80 milligram a week difference, split up into every 3.5 days. So 60 milligrams on a Monday, 60 milligrams on a Thursday in the evening. 100 IU HCG daily, 20 milligrams DHEA daily. I think those are staples. If you can dial them in, the rest of your TRT protocol is going to be better. We had to run that for 5 weeks to see ultimately where estradiol would go. And it ended up at 35 picograms per milliliter. And it would not budge from there. Now, a lot of people think, okay, 35 should be good. And for some people, 35 is absolutely fine, assuming they have enough DHT. But for a person that's been starved of DHT for a while via prolactinum, which inhibits 5-alpha reductase enzymes, those folks, along with the finasteride folks, cannot tolerate estrogen over range 90% of the time. So we had to employ the strategy of having then a low dose done daily with enough DHT, but hoping that estradiol would not go over range. So this is the next protocol that we ran. Again, we're working from a top-down strategy of removing the bottleneck and then dialing in TRT. We like to try high doses first because it's going to be good for the body, good for the physique, good for the energy, good for everything else. And if you can tolerate it, that's usually good. But we just couldn't run that in this particular case. All right, so we ended up down, and these are the short strokes now. 17 milligrams a day cypionate. 17 milligrams a day. It's a total of 119 milligrams a week, so roughly 120 still, but injected every day to prevent estradiol peaking. 5 milligrams a day of PROP, okay, intramuscular testosterone propionate. The whole purpose of that was to give a peak and a trough, to not raise estrogen too much, but to provide enough DHT. PROP is pretty awesome at converting to DHT. It's highly sort of DHT-centric testosterone ester. 100 IU HCG daily, 20 milligrams DHEA daily. After about 3 weeks of that, we had major progress. We had morning erections, we had nocturnal erections, we had erections for penetrative sex 85, 90% of the time, but sometimes it would still fail, and the nocturnal and morning erections weren't consistent 100% of the time. Sensation had come back largely, but there was still a little bit of a gap there. Climax was there, but the dude had to focus a little too much during sex in order to make it happen. Like, it was passable, and he's like, dude, I am 1,000 times better than when I started, but if I were to be honest, I'm not 100%, and I'd like to be. The final adjustment. So we made a final adjustment. So in that case, to me, it seems obvious that the DHT input from the 5 milligrams of PROP and the 17 milligrams of cypionate per day, okay, good, but possibly just not the right ratios between DHT and estradiol. And the reason that this wasn't perfect, the current protocol, is because this guy was just so sensitive to estradiol that we couldn't use an aromatizable androgen to bump up DHT as we were doing with PROP. Cream might have been better, but we were sort of gearing toward the end of the coaching package, and I want to get people results before they move on. So this is what we did, and this was the final adjustment. We kept the 17 milligrams a day of cypionate that's injected every day, intramuscularly, upper glute, 5/8-inch needle, kept the 100 IU/HCG a day, kept the 20 milligrams DHEA per day, and we did one singular drop transcrotally of 20% DHT oil on the scrotum every other day. 2 weeks into that protocol. The nocturnals were consistent. I mean, these were full-blown automatic pulsating erections that he had no control over. They would just spring up in the middle of the night, spring up at 3 in the morning, spring up at 6 in the morning. Guy would have erections when he went to piss in the morning. Erections for sex, streamlined and consistent. Now, we were running 5 milligrams Cialis a day, but that's baseline. What you got to do in terms of sexual dysfunction if it's really, really bad for a long time. Got to sort of rehab the penis to the greatest extent possible. Sensation, fully back. Climax, didn't have to focus. Libido, insatiable. I just closed this session with this guy late August, like the 20th of August. Just got an email over the weekend saying everything is still perfect. Can't thank you enough. There was no way in my mind that I was going to fix this. And brother, you're welcome. You're welcome. This is what we do. So this is the final protocol. Keep it on the screen, and let's just think about what the hell happened here. This guy was substantially over range in prolactin. There's no way on any TRT protocol you're going to have erectile function or libido. It might be temporary, but ultimately that PRL is just going to shut down blood flow to the penis. It shuts down the libido centers of the brain via inhibiting dopamine. Shuts down the testicles very significantly. Started at a high dose of test with the cabergoline to lower the prolactin. I wasn't really concerned about where estradiol was going because it doesn't even matter at that point. PRL has to be in range. You can't have it above range and then try to dial in a TRT protocol because you're just wasting your fucking time, because you're still going to have sexual dysfunction when PRL is above range. Got that down. E2 was too high. Then we could start dialing in the TRT. Move the dose down to 120, again, split every 3.5 days. Still E2 was a little high. Sexual function wasn't great. Went to every day of 17 milligrams, so it's roughly the same dose of 119 a week, 5 milligrams prop a day. Much better, not quite there. Final adjustment, 17 milligrams a day, no prop, 100 IU/HCG, 20 milligrams DHEA, one drop of the 20% DHT gel in the scrotum every other day. Dialed in. Now, what does this tell us? Now, look, like over the years, I mean, I've been the guy that people come to with serious sexual dysfunction and we get it resolved. But I mean, I got to say, like, aside from the finasteride guys, like that was one of the hardest ones. But it shows you people have all kinds of theories about, what is wrong in the cases of sexual dysfunction. Dopaminergic misfiring, maybe they've got dead dopamine neurons or fried dopamine receptors, and usually that's just not the case. Folks think they have problems with the androgen receptor, and I gotta say, unless you manufacture that in the lab, that is really, really hard to achieve. It has always come down to dialing in the hormones, and it has rarely been some other cause, like some neurological thing or some neurosteroid thing or a GABAergic overfire. Like all the stuff that people think has never worked. When it comes to hormones, for our erections, libido, climax, sensation, for all of that to work, we've got to be in tight ranges that align with our genes and our bodies. There are a lot of generalities, as I've made perfectly clear, regarding estradiol at 20 to 35 picograms per milliliter and enough DHT in functional testicles. But the short strokes of that, in the kind of protocols that are like surgically dialed in, like these things are specific to the individual and you have to run through a process to get to them. But the point is, this really, really, really catastrophically fucking bad sexual dysfunction, even that was resolvable with hormones with the right protocol, where we identified what was wrong, not just the prolactinoma and the prolactin. Once you got that in the range, it's like, what does this person need? Those people are sensitive as hell to estradiol. They cannot have it above range, but they need the DHT, so it becomes really tricky, meaning you can't dose them high on testosterone. But I mean, at 119 milligrams a week, dude, still anabolic, still has energy, still feels fucking great, looks great, has no health problems, hematocrit's not over range, but it's the right dose to prevent estradiol from going over range. Got 100 IU/HCG a day, testicles are functional, but a little bit of DHT, boys. A little bit of DHT. Sometimes in the cases of serious sexual dysfunction, you need that DHT. It's not all the time. Again, sometimes cream really works well in that case on top of a stable low-dose injectable ester. But you can't put a price on the value and the efficacy of just raw dihydrotestosterone in some of these cases. Please understand that wherever you are regarding sexual dysfunction, it is fixable. I have personally seen some of the worst cases, potentially the worst cases that fucking exist regarding sexual dysfunction, and we've got them resolved. It's always fixable, boys. Never give up. Keep trying. All right, as I said at the beginning, you look, probably the most significant discount that I've ever run, definitely, is 50% off one-on-one coaching. I mean, if you got sexual dysfunction, we'll get it resolved. If you're spinning your wheels, but you have the budget, it's like me with certain marketing stuff or otherwise like accounting. Like, why would I spend the time doing it? I just pay a specialist to do it. They've been working on it for years upon years or decades upon decades. They know way more than me. Regarding sexual function on TRT, if you're having trouble dialing, regarding sexual dysfunction induced by DHT blockers, sexual dysfunction induced by TRT itself, because the protocol is not right, you're going to have sexual dysfunction. This is what I do. You can hire me for a one-on-one package, a 1 month, a 3 month, better yet, a 6 month. They're all thousands of dollars off right now. We start right away. We're on the fact-finding call as soon as this week or tomorrow if you book today. And we hit the ground running. We'll get it resolved. You can relax, go back to your life. Let me architect the resolution of your sexual dysfunction. That is what I do. Hire me under a minute, livecortex.com. Use the discount code. You're saving 50% right now, and there's limited slots left, so that's going away. Source list, if you need to get the 20% DHT gel or any test of any ester, whatever you might need to actually dial in, just grab source list. It's 30% off right now. Code's on the screen and down the description of this video. Lastly, if you need to dial in on Cypionate, I created a video course for it. So you can get that down below as well. All right, we've reached the end of the video, and sub to the channel because we're growing it. And like the video because content this, I can't even think. Hold on. I can't even move this chair. What is wrong with this chair? God. Damn it. All right, boys, like the video, please. Much more content coming this week. Tomorrow, the next day, hopefully all the rest of the week. Sorry. I'm making a habit of not talking to the mic. I know you can barely hear me. Let me just grab it real quick for you guys. Give me this! God. Yes, I'm done. We're done here. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you guys had a great weekend. Look, yeah, like the video, please. Makes a huge difference. The algorithm means a lot to me. Smash the like button, brother. Otherwise, sub to the channel. Yeah, we're one of the fastest growing TRT channels on YouTube that talks about sexual dysfunction and resolving it from the perspective of both experience and the scientific literature. I'd love to have you on board as a subscriber. Otherwise, kick ass. Rock on. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day. And boys, I'll talk to you on the next one.